Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast, where we talk all about the very unique experience of growing an agency, all the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings, the opportunity, and maybe the chaos as well of this very, very interesting and always dynamic business model. I'm Sean Lang, agency owner of over 7 years and co-founder of Social Commerce Club, and I am joined today by Igor, and I was going to try to pronounce your last name, and I'm still going to. It's probably going to be wrong, but Igor Nuhanovic, founder and CEO of Amazonia PPC. Igor, thank you so much for being on here. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you guys today.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean. I'm looking forward to share everything that I can. We've been in the agency business for 8 years now, like 10 years, 8 in Amazon space, 2 years in Google Ads before that. So a lot of things happened. So feel free to ask me anything you like.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. We're going to get into it. So, one question that I love to start with, because it usually creates a bit of a origin story, and I love origin stories, is why did you start an agency?
To earn more money. In a way, it happened, I wouldn't say by the need. My wife started as a Google ad consultant, and then she was helping another brand. And because I have technical experience, I'm the computer network engineer by the profession. So I was helping her with the conversion tracking, setting up Google Tag Manager, and that sort of stuff. And so, in that way, I kind of slipped into her world of impressions, click-through rates, and everything. Before that, I hated every part of it. Like, she was constantly talking with me about like, hey, my ad is having impressions or not. I was going crazy. What kind of impressions? I know what an impression is, and not speaking about nonsense. So then, by being more and more involved in that, I kind of, at one point, we decided that I should quit my full-time job and just join her, that we should form an agency. And that's how we all started. First two of us, and then we started hiring.
That's really, really cool. Is your wife still in the agency with you?
Yeah, but I would say like a consigliere. She's not officially there, but she's there. She's doing content. In the past, she was the one who were doing these kind of podcasts and episodes and going to the conferences. But we kind of shifted roles recently, because she's much better doing content, and I'm doing this kind of stuff with interviewing people, hiring, and that sort of stuff. So we kind of split, that she's doing what she loves and can do the best, and I'm doing my part in a way.
That's that's interesting. That can lead us to all sorts of interesting conversations. One thing that I experienced when we first started our agency is there was nothing. Our strengths hadn't been proven or defined in terms of the agency space. Aside from like doing the actual marketing work, we didn't know who was best at managing and who was best at hiring and who was best at processes. So in a way, if you don't already have that defined, you're kind of testing it out to see who is the best at each thing, and then you slowly start to whittle it down and say, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. That wasn't good. You're really good at that, so now that's your responsibility. That was my experience as a sort of co-founder back in the early days. So it's kind of interesting that you had a similar experience.
Yeah,
Uh,
because it gets easier once you define that, and it kind of came in naturally. Like, hey, Igor, you're good at that. Why don't you take that part as your own responsibility? And I'm good at this now. And the moment that we split responsibilities, and each of us became the owner of their stuff, everything started to be much easier and much more organized. So yeah, that's the key takeaway from that.
that's a huge takeaway for sure. Another piece that I would add to that is, and you kind of touched on it, but it's not only what you're strongest at, but it's also what you enjoy as well. Because if you can enjoy something that you're doing, you can do it better. You can do it for longer. You're going to want to do it as
Right.
opposed to avoid it, right? So at least for me. So why don't we, before we get too far into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at your agency? Like what does your agency do?
We are helping Amazon brand scale with PPC. But on top of that, we don't offer that as an official service. But on top of that, we have an holistic approach to that, like helping brands on conversion rate optimization. On Amazon, it's a huge thing. Like, is your listing optimized? Is it optimized for mobile? That kind of stuff. But in a nutshell, I would say it's pretty simple. So we push the products so everybody can see it, so people can end up buying great quality products. But we really try to be as honest as possible when we on our discovery call with potential clients, that does it even make sense for us to advertise such product, and it's for the mutual benefit, if because people can end up in love with their product, which is very often not realistic now. So we
Very
kind
common,
of,
though. Very common.
yeah, we had that in the past where we had to tell the other party, like, hey, this is not going to work. It didn't work in the past, not because of the previous agencies, like, and we state the obvious, like, this is the product, this is the competition, this is the pricing, the reviews and everything, which is a huge thing on Amazon. And they're like, okay, never, nobody told us that in the past, and thank you for that. And um, that is like, okay, step away from your question, but I'm the one responsible for hiring, for organization, for the SOPs. I do also PPC. In the past, I completely stepped away from the hands-on experience in doing the advertising, which was a mistake, and I later on realized. But now I decided that whatever we do as an agency, and if we grow to whatever the number of employees is, I'm still going to be doing hands-on PPC for select accounts.
Interesting. Okay, so I have two questions, and hopefully I don't forget one of them. But I'm going to start with my first question, um, which was, what led the decision to go from Google PPC, because you mentioned you guys started it with Google
Yeah.
PPC, to Amazon PPC?
It was, sorry, it was several things. Even at that point, we saw Google, I don't know, in a few years, it transformed really a lot. So we're talking about 2014, 2015, and 2016. When we saw that CPCs are rising, all that stuff around conversion tracking was such a, I don't know, time-consuming process that's really crucial to get it right and to get it done. It was taking too much time than expectations from the clients, and the whole system was starting to be really complicated with increased prices. And at that point, Google introduced smart campaigns. I don't know if they're still around or how they're called, but at that
I
time they
remember
were
them.
called smart campaigns.
Hmm.
So whatever the structure you had on Google Ads, like laid out really nicely, well, like one ad group, single keyword ad groups, whatever. And then when you create that smart campaign and you plug your wallet, and it has priority over all the other campaigns, and everything collapses. And then the exact match changed, and so many things started changing in the Google ads that it was becoming really complicated to deliver the results. And then on the other hand, our colleague approached us and said to my wife, like, have you checked out the Amazon ads? It's really super simple compared to Google ads. The buying intent is much higher. It should be easy for you to handle the accounts. So we tried, and we saw that we're doing a pretty good job at that. And then we realized, okay, let's focus all of our energy to Amazon, and let's just keep the old clients on Google Ads until they decide to bring it in-house or whatever happens. So that's how we ended up in Amazon. And so far, so good.
It makes a lot of sense. It sounds like it was a more efficient choice as well. One sort of follow up question to that I have is this, were you able to get some of your existing clients onto Amazon ads as well, or did you kind of separate your existing clients from the new clients that you were selling Amazon services to?
Nobody wanted to go to the Amazon. I'm not sure why, to be honest, but if I remember correctly, we had a lot of lead gen clients at that point, so not too many of e-commerce. There were a
Understood.
few, so we did Google Shopping and few other things, for them, but I don't know, they weren't interested at that point. I mean, it's 2015. Amazon was big still, but it wasn't as hot as it is today. We're speaking like almost 10 years ago.
So essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is, in a way, you not only changed services, but you changed positioning because you were now actually your ideal client profile had kind of changed because before you were able to do Google Ads for any kind of client, whether it was e-commerce or services. But with the new direction of the agency now, you were basically you had highlighted that services businesses probably weren't going to be it. It was going to be e-commerce brands only. Was that a conscious? Did you draw a line in the sand and say we only work with e-commerce brands, or was it kind of a slow realization? What did that look like?
Well, it kind of happened slowly. You're right. So it happened slowly. Obviously, we didn't want to end up our existing contracts with and our obligations with the current clients, but we kind of started to shift towards. So we kind of decided, okay, no more Google Ads, because when we realized, I'll be honest, how easy it is to do Amazon PPC, and it still is, then why would we bother with Google Ads? With all due respect, the system is absolutely great. I love every part of their system because it's so advanced that even today Amazon is like 10 years behind them with their latest introductions, and they're just basically copying what Google did 10 years ago. And I mean, that's fine. That's how the world goes around. So then we decided, okay, now it's enough with Google Ads and with all those troubles. Now we're gonna focus only on lead generation to bring as much as possible new prospect, new leads for Amazon ads, and it's been like that. So I mean, it's really that simple. You on the one side you had complicated, evolving system with high CPCs, low buying intent, and on the other hand, you had Amazon with only basic options for managing budgets, and it was a simple choice. Like let's get into this train.
How has offering Amazon PPC as a service changed? Have you found that it's gotten more complex as time has gone by, or does it still feel simpler and more efficient?
It's still more simpler than Google Ads, but what's really downside on Amazon is that there are many different data points scattered all over the place. So compared to Google Ads, you have Google Analytics and you have Google Ads where everything is inside and they are connected and you can pull various kind of reports. But on Amazon, you have like search query performance on one side, and you have those external tools because Amazon doesn't let us do a bunch of things with a native tool. So there's Helium 10, there's search query performance report, there's product opportunity explorer, and all of those are just tiny bits and pieces of a big picture. So it's now time consuming on Amazon to connect all of that in a meaningful way, because as you know, search query performance is not a complete data. Then product opportunity explorer has some different data points, but you have to estimate that, and that's the complicated part on Amazon. But still, in terms of functionalities, still it's very basic. Like day botting was a new thing like 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So speaking about advancements, yeah, Amazon Marketing Cloud. Now that's what we were craving for years. Something that would give us some basic functionalities and information like time to conversion, which was introduced in Google Ads, like 10 years ago. Like you can now connect DSP with sponsored products and see the segmentation. I mean, just on Amazon now, everything is so starting to be complicated. PPC is still simple, but the analytics part on Amazon is now kind of becoming to be more complicated. But I'm happy that we have now Amazon Marketing Cloud, which really helps us have a complete picture.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I still have another question, but like I mentioned in sort of the warm up chat, one thing that you say will lead to more questions that I have. So, one other question here is realistically, there's going to be a lot of agency owners listening to this episode who are currently offering Google PPC as a service. Would you recommend that they look into Amazon PPC as a service as well, kind of similar to what you did at your agency?
Yeah, why not? I mean, ideally, you want to offer all those services if you can, if you have enough employees that can provide those kind of services to the level that you want them to provide. But ideally, you want to have somebody who can run Google Ads, who can run Meta Ads, who can run Amazon PPC, because lately all of that is very important for when selling on Amazon, and every brand should have their own website. And if you have a website, it could be that your niche is having really low CPCs on Google, or maybe it's if it's a visually attractive product, then Meta Ads could be a good thing. So yeah, my recommendation would be really, if you're not into Amazon PPC, start with it. I mean, it's gonna be a learning curve, but not that like steep. It's gonna be fine. So anybody who did Google Ads in the past, good Google Ads in the past, can really jump into Google Ads really easily. There are few things that you need to know about for an experienced PPC manager. That's no issues. Absolutely.
Okay, one more follow up question, and then I'll move on to my second question, which is
Hit
now
me.
like
No
my
worries.
my eighth. Um, in your experience, is there a difference in the ideal client, the ideal e-commerce clients between a Google PPC e-commerce client and a Amazon PPC e-commerce client? Is there some kind of differentiation that you would point out?
I wouldn't say essentially that it's a different kind of client. Um, it all comes down to what kind of products are being sold, and is it
Mm.
for wider audience, or is it which stage of the product life cycle the product is in? Do you have to educate your people, your audience about what is the product, or is it like a variation or improvement of an existing product? And it's a matter of just business decision, what is better to advertise on. Maybe Google Ads is the best option. Maybe completely skip Amazon, or maybe do Amazon but not the FBA. Maybe fulfill it by yourself. So there are different options. So not, essentially, I think it's the same, but Amazon can be difficult and challenging because all the fees. The potential is big. The challenges are big. The competition, the black hat tactics. So a bunch of things are happening on Amazon, while on the other side, Google Ads, you have to accept a lot of wasted ad spend, like where you have a few impressions, few clicks, times thousand, times a few thousands, and that's complete waste. You cannot make an informed decision about that. So it's like choose your heart.
Yeah, choose your hard. That's words spoken by somebody who knows. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay, you mentioned something before, and I had to take a note because I did not want to forget to bring this up. It's probably a very key thing to talk about, especially on this podcast. You mentioned stepping away from the hands-on work, the hands-on management. I'm curious. I'm curious what led you to sort of step away and what caused you to come back, because this is a very common experience in the agency life cycle, where us as agency owners, we're being constantly told by different, digital marketing gurus, get out of the, like, stop working on the business, or start working in the business and work on the business, and then so
Yeah.
you step out, and then when you come back, everything's on fire, and you're like, what happened here? So it's really common, but I'd love to hear your experience of why you did that, how it happened, and what caused you to come back.
Okay. What helped me tremendously in our agency is that I'm absolutely great with people, talking to people, strangers, on conferences, whatever. I'm the one who starts every conversation. I'm really great at hiring people and building a team, choosing the people who will get along pretty good as a team. And that's what happened. So as we scaled, we were hiring more and more people, and then eventually they become they became really great professionals, really knowledgeable ones that we started learning from them. So our team members started with absolute zero knowledge about anything advertising related. You know, one lady, and I know that she will never forget that when we had an interview, she came from experience with a in a big shopping mall. She was selling gadgets, but she really did her due diligence and came to the interview and just said, "Hey, I know what's a click-through rate. I know what's an impression. What's a click." And that's where she started. And after 2 years, she became, I mean, even earlier, like in a year, she became completely independent to work without us, without any involvement from me or my wife or senior colleagues. And that happened with all of our employees. So they became completely independent. They didn't need any guidance from us. Occasionally, yeah, how to handle certain situations with, I don't know, bad performance or miscommunication or um, something with the direct line communication. But that led me to just focus on the business and the growth. And eventually I stopped working on the accounts because they were working everything completely independently. And I lost touch. And I was completely okay with that because I was a business owner and we had a fantastic team. I was handling emails, lead generation, that sort of stuff. But eventually completely lost touch on what's happening. So I had to occasionally sit down with the colleagues and say, okay, what's happening? What's new? You know. So that's how it happened.
That's so common, and I want you to continue your story, but I just want to say I think that there's a difference, and this is coming from someone who's made the same mistake. There's a difference between delegating the work to somebody else to handle versus losing touch with the work itself. I have also been in that situation. I just want to say, so please continue.
Yeah. So eventually, what happened, I saw that business was going perfectly. So at that time, we were having so many leads. We had a YouTube channel when almost nobody had it, like 2019. I think we started. My wife was recording a bunch of episodes. She was doing podcasts. You know, at that time, it was really a thing. You know, every podcast that she did at that time brought us like several new leads right after the podcast. Like in next hour, we were getting 3 or 4 or 5 emails with people interested to work with us. So the biggest issue that every agency owner has is lead generation. At that point, it was like flourishing for us, you know, because of the context. At that time, uh, the podcasting wasn't as saturated as today. Lead generation was way easier. LinkedIn wasn't as saturated. Everything was completely different. So we had that solved. So we had a perfect lead generation system. We had employees who were eager to learn, eager to prove themselves and to advance more. So we just kind of enjoyed. So yeah, I really, I'm proud of my mistakes at that time because it led me to where I'm right now. And I'm not exaggerating when I say, and I recently spoke about it to my colleagues on a conference we did in Prague, that I literally for 2 years I worked 2 hours a week. So it's not like what's that book like 4 day
4 hour
work
work week.
4 hour work
Yeah.
week. So this was 2 hour work week, and it was like that for almost 2 years, really. So eventually the money was flowing, people were happy, everything was perfect until it wasn't.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, eventually, because we kind of, I mean, it was not just because we became lazy and that everything was going fine. It was 2020, the COVID hit, everything started to collapse. At that time, we had a lot of clients, and some of them were just starting out on Amazon. So they had limited budgets. They have just started selling. So when COVID hit, there were those restrictions on which categories can sell and which cannot. So like, I think it was 2 week period where we lost 30% of our business in 2 week.
Wow.
It was scary. Yeah. And following the trend, we thought like, okay, this is going to be another 2 weeks and we're done because everything was, we were getting those kind of signals. So we started asking around the colleagues who also had agencies if they can accept some of our employees because they were really quality people that we didn't want to let them go out of job, So we made some progress and some introductions. So a few people went to another company from a good colleague and friend. So we kind of started to balance how many employees we can have versus how much business we started to have, and then the COVID, and it was like a context. The whole context was then the aggregators came with a bunch of money, shifting the complete Amazon industry, like raising CPCs, buying small accounts, bigger accounts, huge accounts. So it was like a lot of things happened, and on top of that, we weren't doing any podcasts, any YouTube lead generations and stuff. So everything started to go down. Should I continue? Or do you have some questions?
It's I feel like there's a longer story here.
Yeah.
And I would assume that it's going to be very familiar to a lot of agency owners who had agencies during COVID, myself included. We were obviously positioned differently than you were, but we saw a lot of I'll say churn all across the board in terms of clients and employees,
Yeah.
and it was just wild times, and it definitely led to some pretty big involuntary decisions in our agency, much like yours as well. So it was an interesting time to live through.
Yeah, that's one way to call it.
I will say, ever since COVID, it kind of feels like every year is an interesting time to live through as an
Yeah.
agency owner. Everything has just been kind of a roller coaster ever since, and that is also why I think that this is just such a wild business to run at the best of times, because
Yeah.
you're getting influenced by everything all of the time, all around
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
Policies, regulations, the economy, the climate crisis,
Yeah.
wars,
Yeah.
platforms that decide to change their policies just at a whim. It's
Yeah. You said it right. It's not like what's happening in your own country. It's what's happening in your in every country. Is it the Black Sea? So there's no more diving in Black Sea. So everybody who sold anything around diving now have issues because people are not traveling to the Black Sea or Red Sea to do their thing, or is it like, I don't know, whichever country that has some of the businesses that you're advertising, or is it, I mean, you said it right, everything's connected. So whatever's happening in the world, it affects marketing and advertising. So it's dynamic, and it was even more during the Google ads. At that point, I think there wasn't any industry that I didn't know of. Like the craziest things out there, we advertise them. Like from I'll never forget that. So we were advertising human tissue that is used in the labs for cancer treatments.
that's niche.
Yeah, that's very niche. So they're literally shipping human flesh infected with cancer to laboratories all around the world to, find a cancer treatment. So
Wow,
you,
I've never heard of that before. That's different.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, everything affects us, definitely.
so can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing that's working now in Amazon PPC? What are some strategies or tactics that you find just work really, really well?
What's working well? Um, I wouldn't, I cannot say that there's a thing that works because it's different for every category, literally. Because you have categories that are mostly window shoppers category, that you have a bunch of clicks at low CPC, low conversion rate. Now you really need to have um, completely new strategy versus selling or advertising supplements or advertising in the clothing industry or whatever it is, like playgrounds or equipment or like selling tires. Every category has its specific. That's why the hardest thing on Amazon, um, for me as an agency owner, is to teach our employees how to think strategically. You can teach them how to lower the ACoS or whatever that the KPI is, but to learn strategy that takes years. But the unique thing for every category is to focus on profitability. And that's the thing that really I like to focus, and it's our thing because it's easy to get caught up in Amazon metrics like revenue and sales numbers and growth. When you think about it, every report on Amazon is focused on revenue. Like when you get to the business reports and you see like year over year growth, month over month growth, wow, you're down 20% and you go into panic mode. While at the end of the year, still, very few business owners on Amazon draw a line and say, okay, how much money did I make? Okay, I did grow whatever, 200% year over year, but where's my money? I cannot buy a house or a car from my revenue numbers.
Mm.
So that's where we focus. You'd be surprised how many business owners, brand owners on Amazon actually don't know their numbers, just basic numbers. Like, where are you breaking even? And they're like, what? What's your profit margin? I don't know, between 20 or 30. I mean, yeah, it sounds like that's something, but is it 21 or 29? Now that influences so many things. So that's what we like to focus. So the day one, we take the COGS numbers and try to um, find out what is it, what's the leeway that we can operate with, how far we can push, what's the ultimate goal. Should we aim for profitability or is it just growth? And then we agreed on the KPIs and we do, like, depending on the complexity of the account, we do either weekly course or bi-weekly course or monthly calls, but all towards the KPI, and it's all about setting the right expectations, as I already mentioned. So if a product is not going to do well on Amazon, and without any, uh, I can see it, from my experience. I know if something's going to work or not. So if we set a good expectation, like attainable KPIs, then everything is good from there.
Yeah,
So
that makes so much sense. Everything you just said. Yeah, that's also some great advice there. Well, Igor, this has been a fantastic conversation. As I mentioned, it went in a completely different direction than I thought it would, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for coming on here. Where can people find out more about you?
I would say maybe the LinkedIn would be best option. So just type my name, because our company's name is Amazonia PPC, and we have an issue with Amazon letting us into search, or how do you call it? Not search partner, but service provider network. So they are not letting us there because of the name. So now we need to rebrand. So that's why in the future, maybe until we get a new setup rolling, it's best to contact me through LinkedIn, because amazoniappc.com would be the best option a few years ago, but now maybe in a month or so it's not going to be working. So
Right,
LinkedIn
right.
is the option.
Okay, all right. Well, it sounds like we might have to have a follow-up conversation about that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so
Thank you,
much,
Sean.
Igor, and
It's been a pleasure.
it's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, Sean.